Yo, JD here, Turtle Limits, and as you can see, we are back on F1 2020 here today, and we are at round, I believe it's 19 of TSRL, and we have a 51-point championship lead with, I think it's 4 races to go now, so this, Mexico, Brazil, and Abu Dhabi. And coming into this race without trying to make an excuse when really is kind of an excuse, which I think racing drivers or people who are very competitive like to do. I was moving house prior to this on this day and over the weekend and just the day before, so I really was not prepared for this race, and it probably couldn't have come to a worse track as well. I did this race on Monday and it didn't look too promising. We did a good comeback in the race, but in raw race speed, we were really struggling
last corner was
around this track. So after only really having about 40 minutes prep for this, normally I like to change my setup quite a bit before coming into the TSRL race. I wasn't able to do that, so I really had to run a very similar setup. I think I just took off one rear wing and that was it. It's the only thing I changed. So a big unknown here, and you can see by that first qualifying wasn't so convincing, and you're probably wondering, why am I showing my full Q2 lap? Well, I will let you wonder why that is, but we'll go right on board of it. And the first sector so far wasn't horrendous, but the delta just wasn't looking good. And if you looked at this lap and you didn't see the lap time, you'd probably think this is actually a fairly decent lap, but just the delta just wasn't having it. It just wasn't liking what I was doing on the track at this point. And yeah, it's a tough one, because I just was kind of relaxed going into this race, because I knew without the prep time and everything that the expectation wasn't that high. But I'm fighting for a championship, and Leopard topping the session I think in the previous one, or he is at the top in this one, as we go in deep here. So that really is my first mistake that I've done in this lap. There's still pressure. I still need to perform. It doesn't matter if I don't have the prep time. I still have to perform here. And going into that penultimate corner, I went in very wide there, lost time on the delta, but going through this last corner, I definitely had a bad last corner in the previous lap, and we fractionally improved to P9. And that side says it all, because
that was a very bad lap as well.
I had a feeling that that was not going to be good enough for Q3, as Leopard has comfortably made it through. So he definitely has the pace here. Martin, a reserve in this league, a good friend of mine, coming back, puts me down to P10 as he puts himself up high on the grid. And now we have Jam Pancakes, and looking at his middle sector, he's actually on a very good lap right here, and he would have to do a horrendously bad last sector to have a slower lap time than me, and that looked pretty tidy. So I was almost certain as he crossed the line here. What time is this going to be? This is going to be a 29.3, I think. And that means I'm not P11, I'm P12.
Yeah, this is my worst track, I think,
in this race. And no, that's not what I planned for at all. But I had a feeling within me that since I just wasn't confident on the speed or anything at all, that this might be a godsend in disguise, because starting in the medium strategy, the soft tyres are so fast at the end of the race, and normally I look after my tyres very well, and I would be pretty much in second place on the grid for that alternative strategy. Might not be a bad thing at the end of the day, especially if a safety car comes out late and stuff as well.
How has he done that?
As Martin does a good time in Q3, but that might be a blessing in disguise, because if I qualified P8 or 9 and Q3 I did the same when Leopard was on pole, and then I'm starting on the same tyre as him, that actually doesn't give me that many options in the race, and it's very hard to overtake around here as well. So we're going to start on the medium tyre. Again, something I hadn't done any practice on, hadn't really prepared for or anything at all. This is, again, was a very big unknown for me here. So we just got to try and keep it clean. and just see what happens. We've got 4 lights, 5 lights here, and as the lights go out now, we try and get a good start here. We actually do get quite a good initial launch, actually better than Jam Pancakes, as VRT Sparks has actually elected to start on the soft tyre, so he's steamrolled down the inside of a lot of people. We're taking avoiding action, exceeding track limits, and pushed out wide again. And sometimes the game doesn't tell you if you've got another warning, because it comes if you've gone off track within like 2 or 3 seconds, it will count it as a double warning. Right. So at this stage, I felt like I probably have 2 warnings here as we've been pushed really completely sideways by Jam Pancakes. He just went into the back of me, just sent me completely sideways. But we continue. We don't really do too much. We're trying to defend from FRA Linus, because I know he's quite an aggressive driver. And I want to make sure that I'm the lead medium runner, just so I can dictate the pace. That's what was very, very crucial to me. So he's trying very hard, but we're going to use enough of our ERS just to make sure we're ahead, as we almost run to the back of the Mercedes there. But making quite a good initial launch, to be honest, at this stage. And right here, this was just, again, completely unknown territory. I don't know how fast I'm meant to be going on these mediums, but what I do know is that they are significantly slower than the soft tyre, and I think we're about to see a pretty good example of that as we come through that 3. Let's see, it smashed this. That's the fastest lap of a 34.2. Then it's a 34.2 for SRT lefted. What do? We do a 35.6, and we're actually containing the cars behind quite well at this stage. So I didn't feel the pace that I was driving at was too bad. I wasn't pushing all limits or anything like that, because it's very, very easy to get a track limit warning, and I thought I had 2 already at this stage, and I really just wanted to do everything I could to avoid the penalty. So we're just doing anything we can to avoid another track invalidation here. But the pace again, I think the softs are now starting to go a little bit off, and our pace again was really, really strong. We were containing the Renault, my teammate, and Ron here behind, without having to use that much ERS. So I feel that the race speed is definitely an improvement from the Monday. Although you can't practice that much, it's just having that lap or that race under your belt, just having that feeling really, really does help here. So we're coming towards the end of lap 8 in P10 at the moment. So we are in the points here, as I think a few people have now elected to maybe start the pit window, as someone does go in. It's Sparks who's gone in, and who else has gone in as well? Can't quite see it on my screen here, but we have moved into P7, coming up to Raceway, whose connection was very, very bad at the start of the race, but luckily has calmed down now as he now dives into the pits here, along with Lefted as well. So let's see where we come out here, crossing the line to start lap 10 of this race. Leopard, I believe, has actually stayed out. So he has stayed out with Tiro Martin and among a couple of others as well. So they're going a little bit deeper into this race. And my main championship rival is in a very, very good position here. The last 3 races, he has just been Mr. Clutch Factor in the race. He is very relentless. He is not going to let me have this championship easy, that is for sure. As now we have moved into P1 with the 2 FRA boys behind. They actually have a time penalty, but again, managing to contain them and still have a healthy amount of the ERS. As now the tyre wear indicator has come on, and you can see here, Leopard has actually caught us up on the medium strategy. So that just shows the difference in freshness and tyres. Though he was only 5-6 seconds ahead when he pitted, now he's already caught us up already. This is going to be some comeback if we want to get big points in this race. It is going to be very, very hard. So we decided to pit. Because they caught up, I decided to pull the trigger a couple of laps earlier than I was anticipating. You can see we're in P12 here, and there is a big, big gap to get any points whatsoever. You can see the gap is about 6.5 seconds again, if I can read that correctly. Even with these tyres, I'm pitting quite early because these tyres are probably going to go off quite quickly towards the end. This is not going to be an easy race, and this is crucial for the championship. If I want to maximise this damage limitation, then I'm going to have to do something. I'm going to have to pull out a speed that I haven't practiced for, I haven't done around here. And again, I was very mindful that I was one warning away from a 3-second time penalty. So you can see coming out the pits, we set 2 purple sectors in the middle and the last sector. And right here now, I'm just trying to be smart. I'm not using all of my ERS early, as McCabe Sam I think is having a bit of an issue. I'm not using it straight away, and I'm not trying to take the life out of my tyres straight away. So right here, I'm not pushing 100%. I'm just trying to catch the pack with as much ERS as possible and as much tyre life as possible as well. So, I have to push a bit though, because I do need to catch up. But just trying not to, just trying to do it as efficiently and smartly as possible. As now we are getting onto the back of Jam Pancakes. It took us about 3 or so laps, so averaging about 2 seconds a lap quicker at this stage of the race here. And this is very crucial at this point. We have to get in the DRS zone of Jam Pancakes, because whenever I come up to someone, I have to overtake them quickly, because the longer I stay behind someone, the more my tyres are going to go off, and that isn't going to be good news for me. And we are in the points now, because 2 people have pitted, or a few people have pitted, so we are on for 2 points right now. But a few people up ahead do have time penalties. It's very, very easy to get a penalty round this track here. But now we're on to the back of Jam Pancakes, and although we'll beat him on penalties, we have to overtake him. And once I knew that he wasn't fighting this, you can see I turned off the ERS very, very early. Again, I have to make these overtakes as efficiently as I possibly can. We did a good job there. We really used the ERS effectively, going purple in the middle sector, so still got some good life in these tyres. And now we're coming up to Raceway, so another lap moves on from here. You could already see the gap we pulled to Jam Pancakes, and you can see once again being very, very cautious with the track limits, just not trying to get that devastating penalty if we were to get it at this stage here, because it could prove absolutely crucial towards the end of this race. So again, very similar to Jam Pancakes, have to make sure I am in this DRS zone. So we're going to use probably no ERS actually, in fact. So I was confident enough that I was going to have enough grip in the tyres, and you can see we actually are within a second of Raceway here. And now we're starting to be aggressive, just trying to be as close as I possibly can before the DRS zone, which means again I don't have to use any more ERS than necessary. So coming through here, still not touching the ERS, just still trying to contain it. So go brake very, very deep into the corner. He goes a little bit wide here on the exit. We are going to punch it ever so slightly a little bit, but there you can see we turned it off so early, and we are still turned it off. So we are trusting that he is not going to be making it too difficult, and we just about get back on the racing line. So very similar to Jam Pancakes, having to discipline myself like with Suzuka I talked about. If you're smart with the ERS, you don't have to be the smartest on track. So now we've caught up to VRT Sparks here now, and this is where it's probably going to get a little bit tricky. Tyres are now starting to go off ever so slightly. We're running not low, but definitely having to be careful. And now we are coming up to a 2 or potential 3-man DRS train here. So he's going to have DRS on the cars ahead. And now this is where I need to think smartly. Do I go for it here, take the risk? Or do I sit back, try and look after my tyres, try and harvest a little bit more ERS, and then go for it when we're a bit closer? Because at this stage, I wasn't close enough, I felt, to really do a launch and attack here, unless I used all my ERS. So right here, I'm just thinking to myself, do I go for it? Do I not go for it? I will decide on the exit of this corner. So we get an exit off here using really no ERS, in fact. So I decided there that I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to be close enough, and I'm just going to let him use all of his ERS and battery power, because at this stage the tyres still felt reasonably good here. And I could see a podium was right here. A podium is right here. We're only 3 places away from making that podium actually happen. And you can see Dominic and Lefter don't actually have a penalty. So I do have to, again, still be careful with these track limits, because even if I overtake them, I don't think I would have enough time, or probably wouldn't even have enough tyre life to try and pull a 3-second gap. So I need to do this very, very efficiently. So coming off here now, trying to get a good exit. We're going to use the overtake, but again, not using that ERS button, just trying to be smart, just trying to think ahead when it's going to be most effective. So he goes in a little bit deep, not having to use any of the battery power here. And just for warning, we'll probably be staying on board towards the end of this race now. You can see going through this section, we still have a good amount of grip in the tyres, but I did feel that probably in the next lap or so, now we've almost done 9 to 10 laps on these tyres, and it's really from that point where they really do start falling off, like we saw in the first stint of the race. So using a little bit of it here, I can see his battery power is very low here, so I knew the overtake was going to happen. It's just about how much he wants to fight it, and knowing Sparks, I know he likes to fight some positions, but to my surprise, he actually doesn't as much as I thought he would. So again, we don't have to use as much ERS as I anticipated, as we have a ghost car of, I think that is Jakey B, who is ghosted there. Unfortunately, his wheel disconnected. He's running under a different game tag for this race here. But now we're coming up to the back of VSR Dominic, who we have had a few little incidents with recently. And again, he's one of these drivers who, I'm sure he doesn't mind me saying, will fight tooth and nail for every single position. No matter how much ERS he's got, he will just keep on pressing that button until it fully runs out. So again, not having to use it here. And so far, I felt like we've driven a very intelligent race here. Making sure we were the lead medium runner. Making sure I wasn't overtaken by Linus or Ron here, because I felt like I had the pace on them on the mediums. And I felt like that squabbling would just slow us down. And deciding to pull the trigger early, just so we can go for the undercut and give ourselves a chance towards the end of this race to make up any position. Because if I pitted a lap later, I would have lost probably another 2 seconds, and no matter how fast your tyres are, I don't know if I would have made up this gap to get this point. So now I'm behind Dominic, and I felt like I really had to get past him now. So I could see his red light was flashing here. So on the exit, I'm going to punch it as much as I possibly can here. The red light is flashing, I can assure you. So we're really going to punch it, pull out at the last minute, go side by side, and he definitely does not make it easy. And that is what I was expecting as well. But now I can see Lefted, his battery is very low as well, and so is ours, but not quite as low as his. But at this point, it was right here, and you'll be able to see in this next lap, this is where I felt like the tyres, I felt like I still had a very slight advantage, but the crossover period was coming very quickly, and I needed to get this overtake done very quickly. As you can see again, just doing everything I could to avoid the track limit warning. And you can see the pace in the mediums. The mediums are actually doing quite well now. And that advantage is definitely not 2 seconds per lap anymore. I think it's coming within just tenths per lap. So we'll be able to get a good idea coming through this lap on what the advantage is. But it looks like his traction is quite good. But the good thing is that I've managed to really harvest my ERS and use it intelligently or efficiently going through the traffic, and we've made such a good comeback. We're in P12 coming out of the pits here, and with over 6.5 seconds to the nearest car, we were a good, I would say a good 12 seconds or more behind these guys here. So to gain that amount of time in that time period, I drove really well at this point. But I can see here now, go use a little bit of the overtake. You see he's going very defensive, but I knew I wasn't going to be close enough. So I'm very happy for him to use all of his battery power. But the good thing is that I'm running a setup, one less rear wing than I was on a Monday. So it was actually quite quick in a straight line. And I'm just purely relying on my battery power for this last lap. Because you can see he actually looks like he has some quite good pace on these tyres. So if I want to get this podium, I'm going to have to make sure I plan this overtake very well timed and make sure that I'm close enough to the straight, because you can see we definitely were not close enough here. So right now I'm just trying to save as much as I possibly can for that back straight. So coming off here, not going to use any of the overtake button, and you'll be able to see in the straight line, since his ERS is low, he's actually going to be losing a little bit of speed in this straight line. So coming through turn 1, trying to get a bit closer. We are definitely closer this lap than we were in the last. And you can see Dominic is still in my DRS, which again indicates, and you can see my tyre wear indicator has actually now come on now. So now the tyres really should be at an equal level at this point. So right through here, I'm just trying to get as close as I can. So, and this time we actually get a very good line here, and we get a very good exit, much better than we did on the last lap. So now it is all for nothing. This is full position. He does not have a penalty, and imagine if I picked up that penalty, we would have not even been in the top 4 of this race. So now we're going to punch the ERS as much as we can. You can see his red light is flashing here, and he can see he's got nothing to defend with the straight line speed and the power we have on board, making sure we spot this braking point, which we do just about here. And looks like we still have just enough left in our tyres, but you can see the battle for the lead. Leopard has a penalty. Smasher is within the 3-second window, so it looks like instead of losing a big chunk of points, it's going to be a very, very small number of points here. And you can see going for this right-hander, we have no threat from Leopard from behind. Just making sure we keep on track. Leopard has crossed the line in first. We are going to cross the line and get a podium in this race after starting P12. We come across and get this crucial podium. Leopard actually wins the race because Smasher had a puncher with a few corners to go. So he gains 10 points. Could have been 3. If Smasher didn't have that puncher, it only would have been 3. So which means the championship is now 41 points. With 3 races to go, I'm actually very, very happy with. And to be honest, this race could have been so much worse. Starting P12, to get a podium was, I think, the absolutely maximum result. Considering the distance to Smasher and Leopard as well, I don't think we could have done any more than that. And that was probably the most important race I've done this season, I would say. Because if we didn't get in the top 5, that gap could have come down very, very drastically. I hope you enjoyed this race. I hope you appreciated my insight. I hope you learned something as well. And I will catch you this weekend for TSRO Mexico on Friday. Peace.